So I've spent the last 2 months dogfighting on the 4YA DCS World War II server using the Pimax Crystal Super, switching between the Ultrawide and the Micro-OLED optical engines. And surprisingly, the one with the less field of view actually seems to make me more effective in combat. So this isn't a typical VR headset review. What I want to do is simply share my experience flying World War II PvP combat in DCS, using the 2 latest optical engines available for the Crystal Super, and my personal opinion after spending a lot of time flying with both. I fly on the 4YA World War II server pretty much every evening, so this isn't a sponsored video or a quick YouTuber test. It's just the experience of someone who uses these headsets night after night in real combat multiplayer environments. After a lot of flying, I've come to some interesting conclusions, and hopefully this will help anyone trying to decide between the Ultrawide and the Micro-OLED modules. My setup's quite specialised for World War II in DCS. I fly on a DOF Reality H3 motion rig with tensioning seatbelts holding me tightly in place, plus force feedback FFB stick and rudder pedals. So moving my head around in VR is fairly constrained, so things like weight, comfort and tracking stability become really important to me, especially when I'm trying to keep tally on targets during dogfights. I don't want them disappearing, and I don't want tracking dropping when I'm trying to check my 6. And I want the headset to stay in place. I want it to be comfortable, because sessions can last anywhere between 30 minutes and 3 hours. So with the Crystal Super tracking, I was pleasantly surprised with the slam inside out tracking on the headsets currently. On my previous headset, the Crystal OG, I used Lighthouse tracking with Type 1 base stations, and this worked well most of the time, but to be fair, if someone stood near you or you touched your headset to reposition it, the tracking could sometimes drop out, and this is pretty frustrating in the middle of a dogfight. With the Crystal Super, the slam tracking has actually been really solid, though I do have to fly with the lights on in the room because the inside out tracking needs visible features around the walls to be able to track onto. So because the walls are fairly plain in the room, I've placed QR codes around the walls, and this gives the headset extra visual reference points. And it really helps maintain stable tracking, especially because I'm also running motion compensation on the DOF Reality rig. So even with that setup, I'd actually say the slam tracking loses tracking a lot less often than the base stations did. The only occasional thing I do notice is a bit of vibration coming through the headset from the haptics on my rig, and that's because I run a butt kicker and a vibrating seat pad, so sometimes you can feel a little vibration and see it through the headset, but to be fair, overall it's not caused any real issues during combat. So onto the 2 optical engines, both of them are quite different, even though they do run in the same headset. The Ultrawide module focuses on maximum field of view by reducing binocular overlap. Personally, I'm not really sensitive to binocular overlap, so I got on, with the Ultrawide really nicely. And I previously owned an 8KX. Before on the headset, I was flying with the Crystal OG, and I had wide field of view lenses on that as well. So I definitely describe myself as someone that prioritises field of view. And that's why the Ultrawide module initially seemed perfect for me. The Micro-OLED module, however, is quite different because it focuses less on field of view and more on image clarity, contrast and colour, from my experience. So one of the first things I noticed when switching between the 2 modules is that the lens designs are quite different. With the Ultrawide module, I could get my eyes fairly close to the lenses, only just starting to touch with my eyelashes when I got too close. Now clearly everybody's face shape's different. It seems that mine's quite unique, but I always try and get my face as close as I can to the lenses to get that most field of view. But on the OLED, the lens housing and the rim around the lens does prevent you from getting really close to the lens from what I've found, so I can't quite get as close until it hits my eyebrow. Now when I first installed the OLED, I could clearly see the field of view was smaller, but the clarity difference was immediately noticeable. Now don't get me wrong, the ultra-wide image is still really good, but once I'd started using the OLED module, I began noticing things like chromatic aberration on the ultra-wide that was outside my focal area when I was switching between the 2 headsets, and I didn't used to notice that before in the ultra-wide. Now the colours on the ultrawide also began to look slightly more grey and washed out compared to the richer contrast of the OLED, and I guess that's been spoiled by the OLED technology versus the QLED in the ultrawide. So when I first got the ultrawide, I put it on, didn't get the advertised FOV. In fact, I got nowhere near. I got less than 110 degrees horizontal FOV, which I was pretty disappointed about. I had an OG crystal with the wide FOV lenses, and I got more than that. So I felt like something was wrong. So I went through a lot of troubleshooting with Pimax, but working with them, they suggested that I tried various different facial interfaces. The first one that I was using was the standard silk one, which came in a separate delivery to my headset. This one was really pushing my eyes away from the lenses on the ultrawide, so I basically binned this off because I didn't think it was very good with the amount of FOV that I was getting on the ultrawide. I then tried this one, which is a studio form, like memory foam pad. That's pretty good, but again, on this headset section, given the shape of my face, it's pushing the lenses away from my face, and it's just not able to give me the correct FOV or benefit at all from giving me more FOV, so I kind of binned that off. The one that I found on the ultrawide that was most beneficial is this one. If I put it on the face mask just in a standard way, I'd probably get around 115 degrees FOV, so still loads less than what you're expecting from that headset. What I found was if you moved it up like that, a couple of people on the Pimax Discord said to do it, if you moved it up a bit like that and kind of stretched it with how you then attached it at the bottom, I was getting a lot better FOV. But the problem is it was causing the bridge of my nose to rub against the IR sensor on the front of the headset. I was constantly having to move the headset around. It just wasn't comfy, so unfortunately I ended up binning that one off as well. I tried then getting the lenses as close as I could to my face, so this is something that I made myself. Got some of the studio form spacers on it, but then it's got some other Velcro that I managed to find at home. This is pretty good, so if you measure the thickness of this one down to kind of 2.3 millimeters, so that got my eyes a lot closer to the lens, but again, my nose was interfacing with the front of the face mask on the IR sensor, just wasn't comfortable, so I had to bin that one off as well on the ultrawide, so wasn't doing very well, to be fair. Watched a couple of videos and figured that some people were using these tribute pads, which are from Studio Form again. I think it's a tribute to an older style headset, not exactly sure which one it was, but got this through, and on the ultrawide, to be honest, it works fantastic. So if you look at the thickness that I'm getting on this when it kind of compresses, it's nearly down at 2 millimeters, which I think the standard silk face foam one's probably 2.5 millimeters, maybe a little bit more. So it's allowing your eyes to get a lot closer to the lenses. So my pick for the ultrawide is this one all day long. It's mega comfy, a little bit absorbent of sweat, but to be honest, I've not used it for long enough to have that issue. But when I put this one on, I'm getting around 125 degrees FOV on this. If I really wrench it down, I'm probably down to the low 120s. So again, it's nowhere near what's advertised for the ultrawide, which is one of my points of contention. So at the moment, I'm never going to be seeing 135 degrees on that headset. But no, tribute one. If you've got an ultrawide, that is the best one that I've found. If you then move on to the OLED, so if I use this one on the OLED, again, because the lenses are different on the OLED, because they've got the rim on the edges, and because of how much this compresses, when my eyes go towards the edge of the rim on the lens, it pushes against it. So when I'm looking up over my shoulder, that you can see from the combat pictures I've showed you earlier on, it presses the top of the lenses into my eyebrows, and it's really uncomfortable. So with the OLED, the one that I found the most comfortable, ironically, has gone back to the standard one. It's a little bit thicker, however, it's more rigid. So on the forehead section, whereas that's quite quite bendy. This one seems to hold it off a lot more. It's more rigid on the back end of it, so it doesn't flex as much. And I just find the standard silk one is a lot better for me. Now, go on, I'm only getting 100 degrees horizontal FOV, which I think is a lot less than what you'd well, not a lot less, but it's less than what you'd expect. I think they're advertising 110, 115. But I think given my results on the ultra wide, not getting anywhere near the advertised FOV, I can't expect to get any more, to be frank. One of the other things I was looking at doing, and this is a bit of a rough 3D print, but one of the Discord forum members made this, where they've kind of chopped a piece out, the standard faceplate. So I could build that up with the studio form spaces that I've got, and try and just customize that distance to the lens. But to be honest, I've just been enjoying the OLED currently with the silk face pad on this. It tends to have bedded in a little bit. It was a bit itchy to start with, but it's a lot better now. So yeah, you can see on the screen, you know, the different results that I've got. Spent hours trying loads of different face pads. So just in summary, for the ultra wide, tribute face pad from Studio Form. For the OLED, the silk standard face pad for that one. So with not getting the prescribed field of view, I thought I'd lose some sense of speed. I thought spotting aircraft would become harder, but what I actually found was how the OLED displays enable the aircraft to be seen against the ground and sky. I found it easier to track and maintain visual contact with targets using the OLED module, even though the field of view is smaller. So even when I was looking over my shoulder during my dogfight, I found it easier, and still find it easier, to track targets and players. With the ultra-wide, I probably had a few extra degrees where I didn't need to rotate my head quite as far, but what I realised is that the increased clarity of the OLED is making it easier to identify what I'm actually seeing. So while the ultra-wide technically gives you more field of view, the OLED makes better of the view that you already have. So I see that as a really big advantage. One thing that really changed my perspective was plotting the two field of views in a screenshot of the P51 cockpit, because I really wanted to understand exactly what I was losing by moving from the ultra-wide to the OLED. What I found is that on many World War II aircraft, quite a lot of that extra field of view is actually taken up by the cockpit framing, both vertical and horizontal. So in practice, the difference wasn't as dramatic as I expected. Doing that in comparison helped me understand what I was actually gaining and what I wasn't really losing. Now that might change for some of the more modern jets, but as I say, I specifically fly World War II, and that's what's really important to me. Another noticeable difference, the weight. So the Micro-OLED module is lighter, and when you're constantly turning your head during dogfights, that reduction in weight makes quite a noticeable difference. I also modified the top strap of the Super headset. So initially I had the Studio Form Velcro strap, and that ended up combining with the Mark II top strap, and that was quite nice. But now I've got the Studio Form cover that goes on that top strap, and it is really nice. So it's made the headset, you know, extremely comfortable, and I can fly for hours without any pressure on the top of my head. I do get some slight glare at the bottom of the lens in the OLED, but only under very specific light conditions, and to be fair, it's probably no different than what you get in the real world anyway. I've also been working with Pimax support since around December, mainly regarding the field of view behaviour I've been seeing on my ultra wide, i.e. not getting the full field of view, and have generally been fairly responsive, usually replying to my emails and questions within days. Occasionally I've had to chase things up, but messaging one of the Pimax representatives in Discord has usually helped speed things up and get an answer within a day. So overall I've been happy with the support I've needed. So after flying with both optical engines for quite a while now, here's how I'd describe the difference. The Ultrawide module gives you a larger field of view and a stronger peripheral immersion. The OLED module gives you a cleaner, higher contrast image that makes spotting and tracking aircraft easier. So both the modules are excellent, they just simply prioritise different things. So for the way I fly, and where I fly, i.e. in a World War II PvP BFM server, I found myself coming back to the Micro-OLED module every time now. So even though the field of view is smaller, the clarity and contrast really helped me track aircraft better during combat. And after several nights of flying, I realised I'd simply stopped wanting to switch back and try the ultra-wide, which was not where I was at the beginning. I was flip-flopping between the two. So that probably says everything. So hopefully this helps anyone trying to decide between the two modules. If you fly combat sims like DCS, I'd definitely recommend experimenting with different facial interfaces because they can make a huge difference to both comfort and field of view. So thanks for watching, and if you fancy some intense dogfighting, head over to the 4YA World War II server and I'll see you in the skies.